Hey, welcome back, or welcome if you're new here. My name is Sarah, and today I'll play with my Pilot Metropolitan Retro Pop in orange with a medium nib. We'll be testing how it draws first, then we'll move into writing with it. I'll share some negatives and positives of this pen and go over the design. Stay tuned to the end to see the final piece. I found drawing with this pen relatively easy. I did experience some hard starting, but I believe there are a handful of possible explanations for this. I hadn't used the pen in a few weeks, and the cartridge was low on ink. How I hold the pen and leave it uncapped between breaks may also have affected the ink flow. I had no trouble with ink flow or the nib while tracing over the pen sketch. I only experienced the hard starting when drawing these flowers freehand. Perhaps the speed at which I sketched wasn't ideal for this nib or ink flow, but the nib to paper feel is pleasantly smooth with a hint of feedback. The weight of the line this nib lays down is also consistent. Now that we've drawn with this pen, let's test how it writes. You'll notice in this video and others in the future, I don't tend to post my pens and hold the cap instead. I don't post this pen because it adds too much length for my hand size and feels slightly back-weighted when I do. When pushed to post, the step between the cap and the body is not too noticeable, but it could be to some. The pen has a metal body with a light matte finish which is smooth and cool to the touch. It warms quickly in the hand and is not very heavy, but due to how I hold the pen and my other hobbies, I'm at a disadvantage for experiencing hand fatigue. The grip section is a little slippery. The knuckles of my thumb and forefinger rub the step between the body and the grip in an uncomfortable way. This pen does have some positive attributes going for it. I particularly love that the stainless steel nib performs smoothly with such a consistent line. I also like that the feed mostly kept up to my speed. The right amount of ink came out every time. In fact, the ink output was on the drier side. I didn't experience any ink pooling, but the inks Namiki Black and Diamine Meadow and Paperage brand might also have had something to do with that. As for the ink capacity, I reused a cartridge instead of the Con B or Con 40 converter that fit this pen. Based on sight, I think the cartridge holds more ink than these converters. Aesthetically, this pen is cute. It's understated enough that it might not draw too much attention, but if you like to talk about your pens, this one is conversation worthy, with its sleek design and pop of color. A flower motif wraps in a band neatly around the body. The light champagne color in the band ties in well with the muted metallic orange of the rest of the pen. The printed Pilot logo, which is gray, is small and unobtrusive. The shape is torpedo-like and tapers nicely to slender ends while leaving the core with some heft. The clip suits the pen and is functional. I've of course saved the best part for last, the cap snap. In conclusion, I find the Pilot Metropolitan to be a decent pen for writing and drawing. I was naive when I first got into fountain pens and was hoping for that perfect pen. I don't believe this is it, but it makes a fine beginning companion to writers and artists alike. If you've made it this far, thank you so much for joining me as I learned more about my pen. I hope you'll also take this time to listen to what it represents to me. The complete story surrounding this pen turned out to be a little more personal than I feel comfortable sharing right now. It brought up some emotions that I hadn't processed yet. To say the least, I bought this pen after I dropped out of college when I felt like a failure and was at one of the lowest points of my life. I had ended up on the nature and self-care side of TikTok around the time I dropped out. Those short-form videos left me thinking about how to find clarity and happiness again. So I began to search my past for things that used to make me happy because college and fulfilling what I thought was my dream weren't. I used to take long walks and journal when I was a teen. Upon remembering that, I yearned to get back to a point where I journal and go outside more. But it wasn't easy just picking those things up again. I was out of the habit of choosing my happiness, and sad to say, still wrestled with feelings of low self-worth. I still needed time to mourn my relationship with college, because my relationship with college was toxic. I fell in love with ideas, not reality, and it was tough to reconcile that. But it's gotten easier with time. I picked up this pen and started journaling again in 2022. Fast forward to 2023 and the release of a new song called Flowers by Miley Cyrus, and you have the inspiration for today's drawing. I wish I had shown myself an act of self-love back then, like buying myself flowers, because receiving flowers makes me happy too. But in a way, I guess I did. I bought this pen. I invested in a version of myself that I didn't think I could reach anymore. Dropping out of college ended up being the best decision for me. I feel like I've been on the path to being authentically myself ever since. It's not an easy path. It can be scary, but I'm trying, and I have myself and this pen to thank for that. Before we put a pin in this conversation, do you currently have or have you ever owned a Pilot Metropolitan? What do you think of it? If you're comfortable sharing, how do you celebrate yourself when you feel down? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching.